For decades, factories in the most advanced industrialized nations have been replacing human labor at a steady pace with robots. But today an explosion in robotics technology is leading to rapid advances in capability that will affect nearly all employment sectors, if not every single one. In fact, tens of millions of jobs will eventually be taken by soulless robots, machines that don't call in sick, don't steal from the boss, don't require health insurance, don't strike for more money, don't stir up drama in the office, or possess any other human shortcomings that make life more difficult, even nightmarish, for business owners and personnel managers. The century began in Europe, and as civil unrest on the continent continues to grow, thanks to ham-handed immigration policies, globalist-minded leadership and a crumbling economy, many geopolitical observers believe World War III will begin there as well. As reported by the Sunday Daily Star, Europe's leaders are said to be preparing for mass civil unrest as multiple catastrophic problems engulf the continent. The site further noted, it comes after months of warnings from experts, including top military brasses, that massive economic issues, mass immigration, and terrorism will lead to a full-scale crisis. They have predicted this will affect the entire continent, eventually leading to civil war on the streets. In December 2015, one of the most apocalyptic warnings came from André Blattmer, the Swiss head of the armed forces. Blattmer, who left his job just weeks later, said the combination of hybrid wars, the economy, and the refugee crisis would have unforeseen dimensions. He then claimed social unrest was something Europe's leaders and armies had to be prepared for. What's going on? Why is Europe in such near chaos?
Due to global warming, and increased moisture creating larger than ever storms, landslides will become deadly. New York, Boston and Miami could all be struck by the monster wave, while Central and South American tourist hotspots like the Bahamas, Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago would also in the firing line. Dr. Simon Day said a landslide in the Canary Islands could send the huge wave speeding thousands of miles across the Atlantic to the Americas. The increasingly unstable Cumbervija volcano could dump a chunk of land the size of the Isle of Man into the ocean, triggering a mega tsunami with deadly consequences. While it could send a 10-foot wave heading towards the United Kingdom and the south coast of Ireland, Dr. Day said the real damage will be done in the densely populated cities of the United States of America's eastern seaboard. He said, a wave could curve towards Britain, depending on the power, but it will have the biggest impact on the Americas. Is California, known as the Golden State, turning into the arid state? As the lingering drought in California has killed more than 100 million trees, according to the United States Forest Service's latest aerial survey. The recent death count found that 62 million trees have died just this year in California, bringing the 6-year total to more than 102 million. More than 5 years of drought are to blame for the tree deaths, scientists said, adding that tree fatalities increased by 100% in 2016. While die-off is expected under drought conditions, the rate of the forest's death is faster than scientists expected, according to United States Forest Service USFS officials. The agency said that millions of additional trees are expected to die in the coming months and years. California's drought has affected 7.7 million acres of forests, putting the region's whole ecology at risk, the scientists said. Surge in methane threatens climate targets, scientists say. While the world has been working to reduce carbon emissions to combat climate change, there's been a troubling spike in another dangerous gas. Methane levels in the atmosphere are rising faster than at any point in the past 2 decades, according to new research. The findings are presented by the newly released Global Methane Budget published Monday, part of an effort by 100 international scientists to understand just how much methane is rising, and why. While methane is less prevalent in our atmosphere than carbon dioxide, according to a statement from the Global Carbon Project, it traps 28 times more heat. Robert Jackson, a co-author of the report and Stanford University professor, said, "I think people should be concerned. At the same time we are trying to stabilize carbon dioxide emissions, methane is heading in the opposite direction. It is dire," he added.
President-elect Donald Trump on Tuesday tapped ExxonMobil chief, Rex Tillerson, an oil man with deep ties to Russia, as his Secretary of State. Tillerson's nomination comes just days after the CIA accused Russia of interfering with the United States election in favor of Trump, in a development which could complicate the confirmation. Rex knows how to manage a global enterprise, which is crucial to running a successful State Department, and his relationships with leaders all over the world are second to none, Trump said in a statement. As ExxonMobil's president and chief executive, the 64-year-old Texan oversees the company's business activities in more than 50 countries. He has opposed sanctions on Russia and in 2013 was awarded Russia's Order of Friendship by President Vladimir Putin following several years of Exxon projects in the country. I can think of no one more prepared, and no one more dedicated, to serve as Secretary of State at this critical time in our history, Trump said. United States media have reported for days on secret CIA findings that Moscow sought to bolster Trump's election bid against Democratic former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton by releasing hacked Democratic Party documents. Tillerson, who has no formal foreign policy background, is sure to face sharp questions in Senate confirmation hearings. Leading senators on Monday threw their backing behind a congressional investigation into United States intelligence assessments on Russia election interference, putting top Republicans on a collision course with the incoming president. Trump's Iran stance could threaten a world war and the destruction of Israel, warns Tehran as it cautions Donald Trump against provoking them in the Middle East. Iran defense minister has warned Donald Trump about tearing up nuclear pact. Hossein Ideg has said any provocation or turmoil in the region could lead to the destruction of Israel. During the campaign, Trump was critical of the agreement signed last year. Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu, who has been a fierce critic of the agreement, said he wanted to work with Trump to dismantle the deal. The Iranian defense minister has warned that Donald Trump could trigger a world war and the destruction of Israel and small Gulf Arab states if he provokes the Middle Eastern power. Trump's election victory has raised the prospect the United States will pull out of the nuclear pact signed by Barack Obama last year. During his campaign, Trump was strongly critical of the agreement that saw Iran agree to limits on its nuclear program in exchange for the lifting of international sanctions on its oil industry and finances.
China prepares for war. Beijing installs weapons in South China Sea to take on America. China has installed weapons, including anti-aircraft and anti-missile systems, on all 7 of the artificial islands it has built in the South China Sea, a United States think tank has reported. The Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative said its findings come despite statements by the Chinese leadership that Beijing has no intention to militarize the islands in the strategic trade route, where territory is claimed by several countries. The Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative said it had been tracking construction of hexagonal structures on Fiery Cross, Mischief and Sub-I reefs in the Spratly Islands since June and July. China has already built military-length airstrips on these islands. Citing images taken in November, it said, "It now seems that these structures are an evolution of point defense fortifications already constructed at China's smaller facilities on Gavin, Hughes, Johnson, and Quarteron reefs." Kim Jong-un plans final victory for North Korea as he plots chaos engulfing enemies. Kim Jong-un has promised to exploit post-election chaos in America, and political tension in South Korea to secure a final victory for his hermit state. The bloody dictator said the protests in both countries was the perfect cover to terrify the enemies, and make North Korea the most powerful country in the world. An editorial in a Pyongyang-based propaganda paper read, "A regime change is now underway in the United States, and there is no knowing of how long the political crisis caused by Park Geun-hye's corruption scandal will persist in South Korea." The DPRK built a stable bulwark and is pursuing a clear-cut strategic goal under the guidance of Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un.